just hold up your hand and I'll stop talking. First, let me thank you for being here. I know you all got things you could be doing, and I appreciate you coming by to meet with us for a bit of time tonight. So let me just talk about why I'm doing this. I'm running for governor because, number one, I think I can win. And that's not the thing that motivates me, but I do believe that people of Tennessee want a governor who's going to be pragmatic, have common sense, and get things done. I don't think they're looking for somebody who's going to be an ideologue, who's going to be totally viewing the world through partisan lenses and looking at everything from the party's point of view or being an extremist. They want realism, pragmatism, and most importantly, they want to see the government work. And so I think my experience as mayor is a good one. Certainly the voters have liked that with Bill Haslam. They've liked it with Phil Bredesen. And what I think they like is that when you're a mayor, you run, at least I did, I ran in a nonpartisan race. I had to get Democrats and Republicans to vote for me and independents. And then when you run the city, you don't do it on party lines. You do it on what's going to give the city a better future, what's going to create opportunity for people. And that's what I want to do for the state. And so when I look at these issues, I think of three things that we really need to focus on as a state. My biggest priority is public education. And people say, well, what do you mean by a priority? Well, what I mean by that is that will always be the thing that I think needs to be funded, that needs to be protected. That is the thing that's going to make our state even a better place to live in. We have a lot going for us as a state. I think if we have better public education, we're going to have even more going for us. Public education, to me, is a benefit to a variety of things. I often tell people that one of my experiences in life was I was a public defender. I was a public defender for 15, 16 years, which is in that world is a long time. I was the elected defender for Nashville for about 9 years. And what I got from that job, other than a lot of satisfaction that I thought I was helping people, doing something important and contributing sort of to justice being done, was I learned a lot. I learned a lot about drug addiction. I learned a lot about alcoholism. I learned a lot about poverty. And I learned about the importance of education because my clients were overwhelmingly high school dropouts. My juvenile clients were leaving school when they were 12, 13, 14 years old, and nobody was doing anything about it. And so I think, we got to do something about it. We got to keep kids in school. If they stay in school, they graduate, we're going to have a safer state. And we're going to be a better state for that. I think it's important, education is important for public health. I'm going to talk in a minute about how we pay for public health or don't pay for public health here in Tennessee. But, one of my concerns is that basically we are an unhealthy state. I mean, if you look at the major public health categories, be that obesity, diabetes, women's health, low birth weights, right to smoking, there's about 10 or 12 of them. And we're in the bottom 10 on almost all of them. Right? And so if we're never going to get our handle around health issues unless we start thinking about preventative measures we can take in living healthier lives. A lot of that can happen at school. Right? And then finally, economics. I mean, we're a state that's got so much going for us. We're going to succeed in attracting business here and keeping businesses and having them invest here because of our sound fiscal management, because of the low taxes we pay, because of the temperate climate, because of our location. But the only thing I see standing in the way to really a great deal of success would be if we don't prepare the workforce to take those jobs. We need to be producing more college graduates, and we need to be aware that not everyone's going to go to college, so we got to have great vocational and technical programs that lets people earn more than the minimum wage and raise a family if they don't go to college. That's what we need to do. We need to pay our teachers more. I've been across the state. I can tell you everywhere I go, that is an issue. In the big cities, you're losing teachers to the private sector because of pay issues. In the small towns and rural areas, you're losing teachers to the big cities and to the suburbs because they pay $10,000 more. And we're losing teachers to Kentucky. We're losing teachers to Georgia because they pay more. We are not keeping up with the rest of the country in that regard. And I'm a big believer that the magic happens in the classroom. It happens from a great teacher who can inspire kids to learn and who can do his or her job with a passion. And to get those people, you got to pay them appropriately, and you got to pay them to retain them. So that's what we need to do. I'm a big believer in terms of economic opportunity. We need to be investing in those parts of the state that need help. You know, there's a lot of great news in Tennessee. Knoxville's doing fantastic. Chattanooga's doing fantastic. Nashville's doing fantastic. Memphis is having some really good things happening there. But there are parts of the state that are not seeing the same sort of job growth. There are parts of the state where the hospital is closed. There are parts of the state where the jobs that moved away back in the 80s and 90s really haven't been replaced, like the apparel industry. And there are parts of the state where they don't have the tax base to do what they need to do with education. So we need to direct our attention there. We need to get broadband done, rural broadband done. We need to pick a date, a reasonable date when everyone will have access, and then get it done. That may require an investment from the state. That's okay. Obviously, you want to work to do it the most efficient way possible, the fastest way possible, and the cheapest way possible. But it is so important for the state to develop. It's so important to rural Tennessee. We've got to do it. And I think, I used to say as mayor all the time, you got to have enough confidence to invest in yourself. I have that confidence in our state, and I would invest in the people of Tennessee at any time. And then finally, let me just talk about health care briefly, because you know what I'm going to say. The biggest mistake we've ever made in modern times here is we didn't do the Medicaid expansion. We are losing $3 million plus every day. Every day. We're losing we've lost $4 to $5 million in money that, billion dollars in money that could have been used to give people access to health care. As people who are poor, people with disabilities, people with pre-existing conditions, we said no to that. And it's hurting our state. We have people now who don't go to the hospital ever to get a checkup, who never get any sort of preventative care. We have people who don't go to the hospital until it's a dire emergency. We have people who don't go to the hospital because they can't afford it, or we have people going who then get bills that result in them going into bankruptcy. And then we have lots of people who go and there's no reimbursement, and what do we have then? We have hospitals closing. We have hospitals all over the state that are in worse financial condition than they should be in, and we've had 11 hospitals closed in rural Tennessee, in small towns. And that means that you lose one of your top employers. That means that it's just difficult to attract new people to live in your town. It's hard to attract business. And ultimately, it means that on the human level, if you have appendicitis or you have a heart attack or your child breaks her leg playing soccer, you're 35 to 45 minutes away from health care. And that's wrong. And we can change that. And we can change it just like Virginia did in the last 6 months. We can say we want to do Medicaid expansion, and it still works. We'll get money out of it. We'll actually see gains in employment in Tennessee because of that. We'll see a stronger economy. That's what we need to do. 2 other points I want to make. I know you're only supposed to make, all should be in 3s, but I got 5, so I'm attacking these last 2 on. This is a beautiful state. I have spent so much time on Interstate 40 in the last 18 months that I love it. This is a great highway. But I've seen this state from one end to the other. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. People live here because of the natural beauty. They live here because of outdoor activities, and we have an obligation to protect it. And that means we don't privatize our parks. That means that we get that conservation and having open space is a good thing. It means that we get that clean air and clean water are not partisan issues. People have a right to that, and we should strive to do that all the time. It's not inconsistent with being pro-business, which I am. I'm a big believer in a strong private sector economy, creating jobs, creating opportunities, creating revenue, but with being pro-conservation and pro-environment. Those are related. If Tennessee doesn't take care of its natural beauty and the environment of the state, that will hurt us with business long term. People won't want to live here. All right, and then the last thing I want to mention is this is a really friendly place. I came here in 1978 to go to law school, friendliest place I've ever been. Even as a law student, I was treated well. And what I think we have to do is not to forget that we need to be friendly, we need to be welcoming, we need to understand that each human being should be treated with respect and dignity. Whether cities, states are the same. They thrive when different people can live together, and they thrive when creative people want to come together and live and make something really beautiful. And that's what's happening in Tennessee. This is a place where people want to be. It's a unique state. We can say without a doubt our future, I think, is going to be better than the present. And that's going to take place when we take care of the basics. That's education, that's health care, that's economic opportunity for everyone. So that's why I'm running. I need your help. I'm asking you for your vote. I'm making eye contact with each of you, asking you for vote, asking you for more than your vote. I'm asking you to get involved. We're not going to win this race unless we are getting our neighbors, our families, our friends, our co-workers to vote. But I'll tell you this, if we do vote, if we get people to vote, we're going to win. I mean, it's as simple as that. We're going to win. And so I need you to do that. And we need you to volunteer with the campaign. We have an office here. We have people here from the campaign. Sign up, go door to door, make phone calls, do whatever you can, send postcards. That's how we win. And that's our goal, is to win this thing. I will be more than happy to answer a couple of really easy questions.
And one over here.
I don't know if it's easy, but quite often we hear politicians talk about healthcare and how we need to expand and have healthcare for all, but what we don't hear is, how do we do it? We hear the Republicans saying, yeah, we need to do this, but we can't do it we can't do it by doing this, this, and this. But then we hear Democrats who are saying, okay, we do need to have healthcare for everybody, or affordable healthcare. But the problem is that you have a lot of people saying, well, how are you going to pay for it? How do you actually do it? And I think if you can explain to people or give them a way on how it can be done, then they would probably accept that and maybe be more willing to vote based on that. Because right now you ever hear everybody saying it's going to bankrupt the country and there's no money for it.
Well, here's where we are. I look at healthcare issues this way. I started off by saying I think the people of Tennessee want pragmatic, common sense leadership, people who are going to be problem solvers and try to get things done. Right? When I look at the way the state addressed health care when it first came up on the ability to expand Medicaid, it was handled the exact opposite way. Give Bill Haslam the credit for negotiating a good deal for the state. He actually got a very good deal for the state. The state should have done that in a heartbeat. The legislature looked at it and said, well, we're not going to do this because this is tied to the Affordable Care Act, and this is tied to President Obama. It didn't even really get a hearing. And they said no. And now we can look back on that decision, and we have the benefit now where it's not trying to predict the future. We have the benefit of knowing exactly what happened. What happened is this. It's this simple. We have lost $4 to $5 billion. We're losing $3 million today, and we have 11 hospitals closing, and more hospitals are in financial disorder because of that decision. So how do you get it done? The answer to that in my mind is this, and this is, I'll agree, this is self-serving. But if you want Medicaid expansion, the best way to get it done is to elect me governor. If you want to send a message to the legislature and say, if they won't read the polls that Vanderbilt and other institutions have done that said the people of Tennessee want Medicaid expansion, you elect me governor, and I've been talking about this for 18 months, that sends a message about what the people of Tennessee want. And the way you do it with the legislature, the way you handle it in state government is, I'm not going to go in there and say, let's do this for the Karl administration, or let's do this for the Democrats. I would say to the legislature, let's talk and try to do something that's good for the people of Tennessee. Let's put aside the D's and the R's, and let's talk about how we make this state a better place. Let's go into this with the idea that we're going to work on making Tennessee a healthier place, a more efficiently run place in terms of how we provide health care, and just a better place to live, and let's do it together. And it doesn't matter who gets credit for it. I'm not looking for credit. You're not looking for credit. We're looking to look out for the people of Tennessee. That's what our job is. That's what I'd say. And you may say, well, that's interesting, but I think it would work. And I think it works particularly if you elect a Democratic governor. And so that's my answer. I mean, and let me just go off a little bit further on this. People ask me, how are you going to work with the Republican legislature? People do it every day. In the United States, we have states all the time that have a governor of one party and a legislature of another. When Phil Bredesen was governor his second term, you had split government. When Lamar Alexander was governor, we had a Democratic legislature. So it works. And one could argue that it pushes people to the middle and makes it better. two of the most prominent governors in the country right now who are getting national attention. One would be the governor of Montana. Maybe you don't know he's getting national attention. I'm giving him a big boost here. But Steve Bullock is a Democrat, and he is the head of a government where the legislature is overwhelmingly Republican, as you expect. The other one is Baker in Massachusetts, who is a Republican, and as you would bet, in Massachusetts, it's overwhelmingly Democrat. And they're getting more done there than in most states. So it'll be a challenge, but I look forward to it. Yes?
When is your town hall?
Town hall.
Yeah, when are you gonna have a town hall here in Knoxville?
Soon, anytime. I mean, I don't know, Courtney, take care of that. Get it
Sure,
down.
absolutely. We'll get you. Put it on the schedule.
I mean,
I believe there's a few on the schedule coming up.
we have a schedule coming up. I am going around the state, we've done 4 or 5 we're in Brownsville this week, I think, where we get people together in the town square and I talk. And I'll be happy to do that here or anywhere. Yes?
Do our hospital systems support the expansion?
I can't speak for every one of them, but I'd say the vast majority of them do. This is what Nashville, of course, we have all these hospital companies there, sort of the center of private medicine, for-profit medicine. If you're in that business, all those businesses, they look at it and they think, why would you build a $500 million hospital in Tennessee if you're not going to get reimbursement for it? It doesn't work financially, and they get it. They're for expansion. I think almost every hospital administrator I've talked to is for it, and I think most doctors I've talked to are for it. I don't want to speak for them, but it makes sense. It's only common. This is common sense right now. Yes.
You spoke briefly about vocational education
Right.
as an alternative to college education. I'd like to hear a little more about that, about how you see the state supporting post-secondary.
Well, it's both ways. I think you got to do more in secondary. I think you got to let kids know that there are options for them out there, and they can get started on some vocational programs and internships or apprenticeships. You can work with business. You can work with unions. I do think that ideally for almost everybody, you're going to need to get some sort of certificate or some sort of community college degree or something to go with it. But even for those who don't do that immediately, you want to make vocational options available and give people the information that there are other options than just going out and getting a minimum wage job. Work with us on this. Well, one more question. One really easy one. Yeah.
So, I'm from Syria, come here
Yeah.
as a Muslim, as an immigrant.
Glad
So
you're here.
was all what you happened as an asylum was similar to refugee. One thing I noticed in this community, I think maybe you guys doesn't notice it, how great the American community is.
That's correct.
How great to be have a right to vote. For someone who like me coming from outside, maybe they doesn't notice that, they doesn't notice how it's great. So the only things when anybody happen, when everything talking about refugee, they come something for me. Muslim, they come every something happen, they go after I get something over. But in the same time, I'm just surprised in everything here we have. It's you have to decide you like Pepsi or you like Coke. You're Democrat or you're Republican. So
How did you figure out the Pepsi Coke thing?
North and East. So I know that North and South. So all these, the only things I like what we start about I'm going to get the Republican and I'm going to the Democrat. I think this is great about a leader who thinks about both sides. I think in my opinion now, this is what we need. It's I don't like when it's even when I'm not going to say names, but even when the other side, the one we don't like, and the one we don't agree with, they do something, I don't like all the time to be attacking them when they can't do something good. I think we need a leader who can get everybody together,
Right.
everybody in the same page, and that's the only way we can move forward.
I agree. And we should say we're here in Knoxville, and of course the great Howard Baker was famous for saying, you got to remember the other fella just might be right, and which means you got to talk to each other, you got to work together, and and the great things do happen when people work together, and it happens in the middle. And I would say, in terms of your story, that is a great American story. And the way I've always looked at this, in terms of somebody like yourself who came to this country, and you could have gone probably to a lot of different countries. And the way I look at it is this: it's sort of like Southwest Airlines. You got the comparison already? Understand what I'm saying? No. Okay. Southwest Airlines says, right, you're free to move about the country. Right? So you came to the United States and you were free to move about this country. You're a new person, and you could have gone anywhere. You could have gone to 50 states. And you didn't go to 50 states. You chose Tennessee, and you came to Knoxville, Tennessee, and you started a business, and you succeeded. Right? That is the biggest compliment that anybody can give us in the whole world. To somebody to say, I'm new in this country and I can go anywhere, I can live anywhere, but I'm going to put my stakes down right here. I'm going to be part of your community. I'm going to raise my kids. I'm going to live my dream. I'm going to live the American dream with you. And that's the biggest compliment that we'll ever get. And thank you.